Welcome to this week's episode of MIAA 360. Broadcasting live inside of the MIAA Network studio, I'm Ben Ferris. In today's show, we head over to Washburn University, where we get a chance to sit down with the Ichabod's Sports Information Director, Gene Cassell. And we also got a chance to sit down with the Ichabod's head men's and women's tennis coach, Lance Lysaught. First, let's see what Gene Cassell has to say about sports information. I'm joined here by Washburn Ichabod's Sports Information Director, Gene Cassell. Gene, it's nice to be here with you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right, so Gene, can you tell me a little bit about your day-to-day duties? I know that it's not usually something that, every day's the same, but what do you normally do when you get here?
I think you're right. No 2 days are ever really the same. Normally it's just getting caught up on email first off, just to see and kind of checking not only my schedule, but family schedule and everything else, what I have to kind of accomplish in a day. And then looking at the team schedules, find out, just double checking if I need to help out with another sport that I might not be the main contact for. Like tonight we'll be over at baseball and, Jason's a contact for that, but I'm going to go over there and help out and take some photos. If I have any meetings because there are several different communication committees that I'm on campus, just kind of seeing what I'm doing over there and then always working for the future. Now I'm working on our football media guide and always preparing for stuff that's coming up down the road. So I don't think there's ever really 2 days that are the same in this business. Today we've got signing day for basketball. I've done stuff with softball already today. I've done some track stuff. So really it seems like every day I'm touching a different sport in some way or another.
I know at some points here on campus, it's not that big of a deal, but right now in the spring season, you have baseball and softball. What are some unique challenges of having, maybe two events that are occurring at the same time?
We're lucky with having a full-time assistant and an intern. We can sometimes cover some of those events that, like if we have baseball and softball going on at the same time, I'll go one way and Jason will go the other. We do have a couple student workers that we can split up, and we have this fifth-year program for former student athletes who are done with their eligibility but still are going to school that come in and can get some hours, so I can get one of those guys to run the scoreboard or to play music in between innings or something like that while we go ahead and stat it. So, it's sometimes just the finding out if a game's going to get moved and when the game's going to get moved to, if you all of a sudden you're going to play a weekend, Friday, Saturday doubleheader in conference, and all of a sudden now you're playing Thursday, Friday. So scheduling stuff with concessions and facilities just to make sure everybody knows that we're going to be actually playing a game on that field today instead of this weekend. So a lot of moving parts to it.
I know you spend countless hours doing these sports programs. And I know you've won several awards for the designs, I believe. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about some of that accomplishment?
It's something that our office takes pride in with our posters and our game programs and our media guides. And, when coming out of college, this was a position that I worked at an ad agency here in Topeka before for well over a year and change. And it was 9 to 5, and it was in a cubicle and, producing, content for different advertisers, and just it was not good, not a good thing. And this position, I'm able to still do the writing, still do the photography, the design, and now with more social media, and obviously 20 years ago no one ever heard of Twitter and had barely even heard of websites then. And so it's a position that I've been able to accomplish and put together everything that I like to do when I was in college, being involved with the design, the photo, the writing. And so it's kind of and it involves sports, because I knew coming out of high school that my athletic career was going to end there, other than slow pitch, co-rec leagues now, so or some really bad noon pickup. But this, it's still being involved with sports, so it's a lot of work, but at the end of the day, it's still a lot of fun.
You talked a little bit about some of the technology changes with social media coming to hand and all that. What's the biggest challenge, or what's changed the most from when you started to now?
I think the quickness of information that you can get out. When I was a freshman at Northwest, I got put on with the ITA tennis tournament. Went back when it was called the ITA. Now it's the Rolex, what was it called? The Rolex tennis tournament, regional tennis tournament.
Yes.
Yeah. And there were, 20 teams there, and I could remember after each day faxing results out to all the other SIDs and the media that we had at Northwest, and it would be 3 hours after the last day's worth of action ended. So I'm still up there in the office, till some ungodly hour, sending out faxes one by one by one by one, and now it's the ease of information that we can get things out is incredible. One email and everything's posted to all your local media. You put it online and you have it out there for everybody to see. And Twitter, you can instantly send out scores to your followers. And so I think it's been kind of a blessing and a curse too, because then on the flip side of that is if after a softball game ends and baseball game, any sport ends as far as that goes, and those stats aren't on the board, you get people, hey, I didn't see those stats right after the game, and hey, what's something wrong going on? So it's kind of a dual-sided sword that sometimes you can get bit by. That, well, the game's up. How come all this is automated? Where are the stats? How come things aren't updated instantly? So, and the social media, just the amount of people that can follow you instantly and know about your program, I think is, and you always have to have some sort of an idea what you're going to do with it, because if you go into social media without having a plan, I think sometimes you can run yourself around in circles and not trying to come out with a direct message that you want to try to get to your followers and your fans and your boosters and players' parents and even the players who follow you on Twitter.
Now, you've been associated with the MIAA for a while now. You were a graduate of Northwest Missouri. What made you pursue your profession?
Coming out of high school, like I said, I knew my athletic career was going to end there, and and then that wasn't the best in the world either. But it was my high school basketball coach actually called the SID office at Northwest, and I started there as a freshman in fall of '93, and worked in the office each of the 4 years then, and had a blast. And there's still a couple of coaches that float around that were still there when I was in school there. They're still there now, and so it was a great experience for me, because I was able to get involved right away with anything in college athletics, and the mass media department and stuff up there, that I was able to get on the newspaper staff right away and won Rookie of the Year. And so it was a good experience just being able to get involved, and that's what I tell, we'll have people come on campus and Regina in the mass media department here does. She tells them, you've got to get involved, and people are going to look at that stuff when you're out looking for jobs. You go, oh my gosh, this kid did X, Y, and Z as a freshman and sophomore, and they have all these experiences that somebody else might not have, just who wants to get involved with college athletics, but if they never come in and volunteer and never look to get involved, that's going to put that person one step ahead of somebody else in a resume search as they're looking for a job once they graduate. So that's what was so great about Northwest is the SID up there. Larry Kane, when I first started, he let me get involved, and he sent me on basketball road trips as a freshman to Denver, and went all the way to Wayne State, Nebraska, which I remember it being so cold and the bus breaking down, so that was awful. But it was he must have saw something in me, I guess, to be able to hand that off to me and go on those trips, and as a freshman, because I was just a young pup out of school, and it was a blast. Good learning experiences.
Mm-hmm. And then, do you have any favorite memories here at Washburn?
The women's basketball team winning the championship in 2005 was awesome, and it was. The men's basketball team going to Bakersfield in 2001. I mean, that was when they lost in the championship game. I mean, it was awful losing, but that experience for me. I mean, I'd barely been here 2.5, 3 years, and we're at a national tournament, and it was just an awesome experience. And that's been a blast seeing the football team when they broke a long losing streak to Pitt State, when it had been 25 years or so since they'd won a game here, and just or against them at all, and seeing the football team just explode on the sidelines, winning that game, and then the next week turn around and beat Northwest, who they hadn't beaten in a really long time either. And so I mean, those memories like that are great, and just being able to have my kids on some of the sidelines for some of the games, taking photos on the sidelines with both of them, and those are two of the photos that I've got in my office. Is I've got a big lens, taking photos, and our oldest son, who was much shorter than me then, he's on the sideline taking photos too. So I mean, I think that's what's so awesome about Division II is that there's such a big family atmosphere between the coaches and our kids and other coaches and their kids, and everybody knows everyone else's kids' names and what they're involved in. And so I've been able to take both of them on road trips with us before and riding on the bus with us and to trips. So I think that's a pretty cool atmosphere for our boys to get to go along with some of that stuff too and kind of experience it.
Mm-hmm. Now I know everybody here at Washburn and everybody at the conference office is really excited for this new indoor training facility that Washburn's putting out. What do you think that's going to be bringing to the program, and how do you think that it might bring national championships here for indoor track and field? It's supposed to be one of the most amazing indoor track and field.
Well, it's I've done the digging on it, and it's going to be the only Division II banked 200-meter track. Just talking the track and field section of the building, it's be the only 200 banked track in Division II in the country. And so, I'm obviously not a runner, but I know that's important. So that part of the facility is going to be incredible. But then you add the second half of it, where football, baseball, soccer, softball can do things, and they're not affect any of the stuff that track and field is doing. And it's depending on the weather, we've got 415 plus student athletes here. At one time, if you throw in the spring sports and then track and field practicing at the same time, we could have 75-80% of our student athletes in one building. That will take some of the wear and tear off Lee, because instead of having a pole vault pit down in the basketball arena, they'll be able to have it back over at the facility. But I think for the city of Topeka, I think it's going to be great, because then if we get to host indoor track and field meets just during the regular season, heads on beds, teams come up early and they'll stay in town, and I think be able to host possible national tournaments, not only for NCAA, but possibly in NAI, host JUCO, maybe other conferences, maybe KU or K-State wants to host a meet over here because of the facility. I mean, I think your options are kind of open-ended on that, on what you can do with it. And I think it's great for the campus, it's great for the city, and even in the region, I think it's going to be a pretty cool experience for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the big things with the MIAA and the NCAA is life and the balance for student athletes. But it's also important for everybody in the athletic department. How does the life and the balance for you work between work life and family life?
It's this past couple semesters, it's taken a little bit of a hit, just because I've decided to go back to school too and work on a master's program. So even that one 8-week class each semester is tough. I forgot how much I hate APA style, and but it's important. Our kids are freshmen in high school and a 7th grader, and they're both involved in sports. And my wife's busy on campus too, and as a professor. So I mean, it's tough, but we try to get together when we can at the lunch table, when we're not driving one of the kids somewhere across town to the other. And so I do try to get out here early sometimes when I can, or my golf clubs have at least made it from the basement to the garage, so I see them every time I back out, but it's hopefully I can get out on a course and go chase a white ball for a while. And the youngest son likes to golf, so he'll go with me if he's not playing baseball. And so I mean, it's we do try to do family things a lot. Just it's tough, but either go to a movie or go out to eat, even just to say, hey, how's your day going? So yeah, it's a gigantic jigsaw puzzle sometimes, but I think we're doing okay.
We'll be right back to Washburn University after this short break to talk to Coach Lance Lysaught.
got our heads in the game,
our minds in the classroom,
our hands in the community,
and our feet ready for the world.
We're a part of the NCAA Division II experience.
Using our skills
at our universities and in our communities. I chose the MIAA.
I chose the MIAA.
MIAA, the spirit of our communities.
Being a champion takes more than skill, more than endless drills, more than using your head. Being a champion takes the heart to give it your all, the agility to thrive from any angle, and the relentless drive to be the best. Welcome to Division II, where the pursuit is yours to create, and the question isn't, can you do it? It's, will you?
Welcome back to MIAA 360. Now we're going to talk to the Ichabod's head men's and women's tennis coach, Lance Lysaught. I'm sitting here with Washburn Ichabod head tennis coach, Lance Lysaught. Lance, it's nice to be here with you. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Up early and looking forward to the interview. Thank you.
All right, so let's start off. You were a former Washburn tennis player here, a two-time District 10 singles champion and a doubles champion. Can you kind of tell me about how that experience as a student athlete kind of helps you coach today's student athletes?
Yeah, I think it helps in a couple of different ways. First of all, I think there's a little bit maybe more credibility to what you're saying when you're coaching if the players know that you've played at a high level, even though, for me it's been, I don't want to say how many years, but it's been a long time. And the game's changed a lot. But the fact that you've been there, done it, kind of worked through the process. And when I came in the late 80s here, we were kind of down a little bit, and our dream was to win the conference championship. And so we set about that, myself and some other guys. Matt Cassell, who coaches at Baylor now, was on that team, and David Price, who's a professor here now, who actually is my volunteer assistant here now. We're all on that team together and kind of went through that process. And so we try to bring the things that we learned in going through that, the toughening process, what it takes to kind of achieve a conference championship, and knocking off some of these teams in the MIAA. They're very good teams, a lot of nationally ranked teams. So I think that definitely helps, and I think just the experience of the things that you need to do, not just on the court but off the court as well. Taking care of your body, the choices that you might make, on the weekends, and things like that. That you really got to look at sacrificing maybe some other things so that you can achieve your dreams and your goals with the team. And so having gone through that level of accountability and that level of athletic achievement, I think does bring more of a credibility with the athletes today, and just gives you a little bit more confidence, I would hope, as you're coaching. So.
Yeah. And then, so after you graduated from Washburn, you kind of bounced around. You went to tennis pro at a couple different country clubs around here. Mm-hmm. You were head pro at the Topeka Country Club.
Yes.
How do you think those positions helped you coach today?
Well, it's interesting because I've had some different jobs in my life and got back into tennis after doing some other things. And it really working with so many different ages. I worked with men and women, boys and girls, ages 3 to 83 is the way I would say it, for years. And you're really in a service position where you're kind of, you're working with beginners, you're working with intermediates, you're working with leagues, you're working with advanced players. And so both male and female. So it was I think I grew a lot, as a person, and just learned a lot about people. Learned that you can't please all the people all the time, even if you try. So, but I think the thing that I always loved in those positions, head pro, I was a director for a while over at Wood Valley, but I think the thing I always loved was working with the elite players, the players that were heading on to college. And so that's what I was drawn to even back then, before I even thought of being a college coach. I never really planned to be a college coach, it was always kind of there on my radar a little bit. Yeah, it might be something I might want to break into. But the path isn't usually, to break into college coaching when you're in your 40s. So it's been a little bit of a different path, but I did learn a lot, and I learned a lot about even simple things like budgeting, how to budget, how to be in a management position, things like that. So I think overall it was great for me, and especially since now I'm coaching men and women, I think that aspect of coaching both men and women for a good number of years has really helped. So.
Okay. You switched over from tennis pro to collegiate coach.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of made you do that, and how did that work?
Well, bottom line is I was working with a lot of the top players in Topeka, a lot of college level players, and even players driving in from out of town. But a lot of these were high school athletes and even hitting with some college athletes. And so, and I was doing just 15 hours of private lessons a week with these players, and you're hitting with them, and so at a very high level. So at the age of through your 30s and into your 40s, your body breaks down. And so I've had 4 knee surgeries, and my things I was still holding up, but my knee gave out again, and I had a bone chip floating around in my knee, and the doctors finally just told me that hey, you just can't keep doing this anymore. And so I was really kind of forced to make another career change, which I'd had several in my life, but I really looked at it, the timing on everything. I knew I was going to have 2 knee surgeries coming up to try to get the knees as good as they could be, because they won't give me knee replacements. I'm not old enough. So my uncle called me and said, hey, I heard on the radio that Ottawa University is starting their tennis programs again. And they hadn't had men since 1990, I believe it was, and they'd never had women. So I'm like, and I just had the doctor tell me that you need to find another career. And so I'm like, well, this kind of fits into what, I thought. So, went in for the interview, got real excited about it, and looked at it as an opportunity. A lot of people would look at starting 2 tennis programs at a school with only 5 tennis courts in the whole city as being, almost impossible, or just something they wouldn't want to take on. But I kind of looked at it as a career change. I thought we did a good job there of starting that program on those 5 courts. We actually were trying to get tennis courts on campus, so I ended up leaving, but they do have courts on campus now, so I felt like I got to be kind of a part of starting something new there. And I always said if the 2 years that I spent there would bring a higher level of tennis to that community and to the city of Ottawa and to the university, it would be worth it. And it looks like that's happened. Their teams are doing pretty well now, and it's good to see those courts on campus.
Now, were there any challenges, jump-starting that program?
Mm-hmm. A million. From the day I went in and tried to ask for money for courts on campus to for Parks and Rec program, trying to get people involved. When there's 5 tennis courts and it's at a public park, and you're practicing on them, you're bumping people off their courts, and not everybody looks at that and goes, wow, isn't that neat that Ottawa has a tennis program? So it was a big challenge. The administration hadn't had tennis before, and so and I'm a new first-time tennis coach, a college coach. So I'm learning, they're learning, we're kind of going through the process together. The players are all learning, at a new school, and we're driving across town to play, and we're sharing the weight room with the football team, and the weight room's it's tiny, so which they have a much better weight room now. So a lot of positive things have happened at Ottawa. Mm-hmm. So just a ton of challenges, but I think made me a better coach now, having gone through all that, having seen that side. That I'm very fortunate the facilities we have here at Washburn and all the support we have, from the administration on down. So learned a ton and faced a million challenges, but any job's got a million challenges. So it was a great experience.
Finally you made it back here to Washburn. What's it like coaching at your alma mater?
Yeah, it's once again I talked to Coach David Price, my volunteer, and he's a professor in the business department, marketing professor. And we talk about when we were here playing, and it's like you would never thought. We played for Peg Marmot, and we just think, what would Peg think? What would Peg think if she knew we were here doing this now? And it's really neat. You feel like you're not just coaching anywhere, but you're coaching somewhere. I know that when we were here, we took great pride in putting Washburn on the map as a tennis program, and because we weren't really on the map when we got here. And so we kind of have taken great pride in this is my 4th year, kind of getting the program turned around, going in the right direction. We feel like Washburn should have elite tennis teams, and so we're trying to do all we can. But we also want to have a balanced atmosphere. We're not a Division I program, so we want our athletes to be strong academically as well, and we feel like we've done a good job with that. So it's really an amazing experience to get to come back to where you went to school and contribute from a whole different perspective as an adult. When you were here, 18, 19, 20, you don't quite have quite the view that you would have now, and so it's I wouldn't trade it for the world. It's been awesome.
Yeah, I know. Last year you had your first and Washburn's only women's D2 national champion.
Mm-hmm.
You've had several nationally ranked men's players. Can you talk a little bit about how that helps the program and what that accomplishment means to you?
Yeah, it's funny because when I got here, I set out the big goal. I wanted to win a conference championship, which all the coaches do. Everyone's trying to win the conference championship, and that's the mission. And we had some amazing things happen along the way of trying to do that. Madeline Hill from Topeka, Kansas here, who I was privileged to work with her since she was 11, 12, doing privates, and she was in one of the elite groups that we talked about. She transferred here from SIUE last year and came in and went on a run, a historical run. I think she lost 2 matches the whole year. So all-time, singles record for a year, and in the process won the national championship, which is it's kind of unheard of for an American. I think the last American to win it was in 1992. Division II tennis has kind of gotten to where it's dominated by international players, just the way it is right now. So just a kind of a dream run, and I feel very privileged to get to go through that with her, and we've also had Alejandro Valarezo. He's been ranked as high as 4 in the nation. I think he made history here with Blake Hunter winning the doubles regional 2017 this last fall, and then won the singles as well. And so, excuse me, and he finished 4th at the Oracle Cup in the national championship. And he and Blake also finished 5th together. Wow. So just and they're currently ranked 3rd in doubles in the nation right now. So a lot of great things happening. Nationally ranked players. The reality is tennis is a team sport. Not an individual sport. So the goal is to put enough quality players together and get them all playing their best tennis at the right time to be able to pull off a conference championship. But we're excited about all the individual achievements as well, and I think they do help the program. They help with recruiting. They help with recognition for tennis here at Washburn.
And I know last year you also were named the Women's Coach of the Year here at the MIAA.
Sure.
What does it feel like to be recognized by the MIAA and your peers?
Yeah, that was a great honor. Anytime the other coaches vote for you for something, I think that holds a little bit more weight. You're not allowed to vote for yourself, so I really appreciate that. It's you don't really go after a Coach of the Year. You're just trying to do the best job you can, and so that's something that's kind of in the hands of others. But no, great honor. Really appreciate the recognition from the MIAA, and hopefully I can continue to improve. I don't know, you kind of don't feel like you really deserve it. We didn't win the conference championship, and usually the coach that wins the conference championship gets that award. So maybe it was the national championship. I'm not sure, but I do think we've done a good job turning the programs around here. So it's nice.
Yeah. All right, well, let's change gears here a little bit. I know the MIAA Tennis Championship is next week. Mm-hmm. How are you preparing your programs for that event?
Well, we've been preparing for that since, I think, the first practice. Everybody, as we just said, the goal is to win that conference tournament at the end of the year, and to win, if you win the regular season, that's awesome too, but everybody wants to win that tournament at the end. So we've been preparing for it from the first day in the weight room and the first practice, and it's a process. It's a long season. You have your fall season, which is more focused on tournaments, and then once you get to the spring, it's all about duels and competing against the other teams and being more of a team, because your 6th player, their win counts as much as your number 1 player. So you just keep working all year. You keep trying to work on the things that the players may be struggling with. You're making little adjustments. You're trying to keep everybody healthy. So this next week, honestly, we had a match yesterday. Have a match tomorrow, and then it'll be we'll be traveling to Lincoln before we know it, playing on Monday. So it's just a matter of kind of balancing this week. I do feel like our teams are playing some really good tennis. Both teams are on 3-match winning streaks. So hopefully we can continue that momentum tomorrow. Maybe get them out on Saturday, condition a little bit, and then it's just getting them to the conference tournament and being fired up and ready to go.
Yeah. Well, one of the big things here for student athletes in the MIAA is life and the balance. It's really important for the students, but it's also really important for coaches. And I know you have a family yourself.
Sure.
How do you do the life and the balance between coaching and the family?
Well, what works for me, which I'm not sure if it works, but I really try to go home, and I have 6 kids, and my oldest daughter plays on the team for us and is doing a great job, Madison. So, I try to switch it on and off between being coach here, and then, if she's at the house at home, I'm dad there, and I don't really try to. It's like you're being 2 different people, but I try not to bring it home unless the family wants to talk about it, unless they bring it up, because there's, when I'm here, it's all tennis, and they come out to all the matches and support, and they know everybody. So that's what I try to do for me. I try to balance it out. And then in the off season, I think for coaches, it's very important to just take some time and just don't even think about the sport. And we even tell our players that, hey, summer, take at least 3 weeks before you start training again. Just don't even think about, tennis for a while. And keeping your life, especially for the athletes, we tell them, hey, we want you to have a life. We want you to, do well in classes, and we want you to have some time, to go places and to enjoy your college experience. And so it's not always easy as a coach to do that, but we try.
Well, that's all for this week. From everybody here at the MIAA Network Studio, thanks for watching. I'm Ben Ferris, and until next week, bring your A game. Welcome to this week's episode of MIAA 360. Broadcasting live inside of the MIAA Network Studio, I'm Ben Ferris. In today's show, we head over to Washburn University, where we get a chance to sit down with the Ichabod Sports Information Director, Gene Cassell. And we also got a chance to sit down with the Ichabod's head men's and women's tennis coach, Lysaught. First, let's see what Gene Cassell has to say about sports information.